Welcome to Summit University. Today our guest is Steven Acuff. He's a best-selling author and lecturer on health and diet in Europe and the United States. Mr. Acuff specializes in the macrobiotic diet. He is an instructor at the Cushy Institutes in Massachusetts and a nutritional counselor at a medical clinic in Germany. He is also director of a macrobiotic center in Sweden. Mr. Acuff is here today to talk about Oriental Diagnosis.
This session will be a continuation of facial diagnosis, which we started last time. And after covering the problems related to the intestinal, digestive, and reproductive areas, we'll continue looking at the face today and seeing what we can detect, what kind of signs the body is showing on the face. You'll sometimes see very strong lines developing here, right from the corner of the nose and going down towards the corners of the mouth. Now, speaking from acupuncture, we can see this is the area where the large intestine meridian ends. The intestines in Oriental medicine have an importance which goes far beyond just digestive process. The intestines actually stand for our physiological strength, physical strength. So it's a sign of health when this is smooth. And the deeper these lines get, the more we're getting out of balance. Especially for the stomach and intestinal area, digestive tract, but also it is a barometer of our physical health. So people who develop these very strong lines are being given a message to get back into balance. This is especially important if the cheeks tend to stick out. So you'll see where these lines are, and then the cheek area just sticks out over that. So this will be fairly flat, and then it just comes out on both sides. The cheeks themselves, this area is related to the lungs in Oriental health evaluation. So a sign of problems would be a reddish, reddy color in the cheeks instead of being one color. Or a lot of pimples, or signs of skin discoloration in general, so that the cheeks stand out as being different than the skin tone and the rest of the face. Now, for women, this area also corresponds to the breast. So, signs of developing breast cysts or breast cancer can also be seen in this area of the cheeks. And it is a skin change that happens here, a tone. It sometimes looks a little bit like uneven, almost like if you imagine the peel of an orange, the way that looks, the skin will start looking like that when it's getting far out, like an extreme condition. Sometimes it will be like a grayish-green color if it's developing into cysts and going towards cancer. But that's an extreme case. We can back up a little bit here. that in general the lungs are burdened by excessive fat in the body, which can gather in the lung area and decreases the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So posture is something we'll take up later, and also will show us the lungs. People who will stand with a stooped posture like this is a sign that lungs. So if we see someone standing like this, and then we look at the cheeks to see if this is being verified there. Does the cheek area in some way vary from the rest of the face? If it's extreme, you'll see a lot of unevenness, a lot of different things showing up here, like almost like moles or dark spots, repeated pimples. And this is showing you less fat, and especially yin kind of fats. Yin is the word we use for the expansive energy. We've talked about it in earlier sessions, which will gather more up. And sometimes we'll see a difference between the left and the right cheek, showing us that whether the left lung or right lung, or left breast or right breast, is more out of balance. Sometimes it's just a swollen puffiness. You don't always see a clear color change, but you notice that one cheek is puffier than the other. We can learn a lot by keeping in mind that the body should be, or the face should be symmetrical. And when we see strong differences left and right, let's find out what those differences are. Now, some things are constitutional. You're born with, say, one eye slightly lower than the other, or that the nose slightly turns to one side. Those are constitutional things, but your condition will be shown in the skin tone, color, and through puffiness. Now, when I have women with breast cancer in counseling, as I have often in the clinic in Germany where I work, then I will very carefully study this area of the cheeks, because the swollen area gives you an idea of how far along this process is. If it's very swollen, it's more extreme. Now, swelling is more also what we call a yin condition. It's expansion, puffiness. Breast cancer itself is more a yin disease. It's caused by excessive yin, although that's a bit of an oversimplification. The left side breast cancer is much more yin than the right side. So in these areas, we will see that with lung and breast, and then we can move right on over to the nose. Now, the nose has different areas. The area closest to the tip, the far end of the nose, is what we would call the heart area. Just write HT here. So the heart is being shown towards the tip of the nose. The heart can be seen as either too yin or too yang. You can imagine, after our study here of yin and yang, about how the nose would be if the problem is too yin. In other words, the heart tends to be expanded. It would be also an expansion of the lower third of the nose. So you look at the nose and you can see in the lower third a very clear expansion. It looks puffy. And it will be especially noticeable because the upper two-thirds of the nose will be tighter. more firm. But sometimes the condition is so yin, extremely yin, that the whole nose will be very expanded or also be red. So if the tip of the nose is red, the red color again showing us extreme yin. It's the expansion of blood vessels. It's too much sweets, too much coffee, too much tea, and all these things we've been talking about that are extreme yin. This affects the heart. If we think about it for a moment, the heart is the most yang organ of the body. It's constantly pumping and working. We go to bed, and while we're sleeping, the heart continues to pump, never has a break, except a split second in between beats. So, if we take strong yin a lot, what we'll do is create a situation where the strong yin is being attracted to the strong yang in the body. It's just like female and male energies attract. Strong yin taken in the form of bananas, orange juice, will energetically be attracted to the yang heart and weaken the basic yang quality of the heart. So, expansion is a sign of weakness, and it will create more stress and will wear the heart out faster than would otherwise be the case. Other people will get a heart rhythm disturbance. It's not beating rhythmically. This can often be seen as a split in the middle of the nose. You'll see it's here or sometimes like under here, where you can see definitely two sides to the nose. There's a definite split in the middle. The split in the middle shows a strong yin force, which is bringing the heart out of balance. See, the heart is yang, it holds together, it's tight, compact, that's yang, but it's actually got a left and right side. It's got chambers, it's got a left and right side, and these two sides will come out of balance, will no longer have this very smooth rhythm that gives the heart more resting time in between, but rather the rhythm will become irregular, decreasing the rest time, and the heart will just have more wear and tear. So a person who has this split in the nose has a deep weakness in the heart, which shouldn't cause a lot of concern. It should just be a good sign, or it should give the people a good clear sign that it's time to be careful with food, especially strong yin things. Because a person who has this kind of weakness can balance it out. Especially good are burdock roots. Burdock roots grow wild in many places, but because they are such a good, strong, yang medicinal plant, we can also grow them in our gardens. And we are great fans of burdock in our Macrobiotic Center in Sweden. We see that it helps to balance the excesses of the previous years. The burdock root grows very strongly into the earth. The more powerfully a root grows into the earth, the more strong yang force it has. So dandelion roots are also good. If you prepare dandelion roots properly, they taste delicious. So burdock or dandelion roots, both are very good for this kind of problem. We also have other, what we call yang condiments, like tekka, T-E-K-K-A. Tekka is a yang condiment made out of burdocks, and miso a soy paste, which we use as a seasoning for soups and vegetable dishes. So a little bit of teca as a condiment on your food, and you will increase that yang force, and it makes a stronger heart. It will overcome this tendency to rhythmic disturbances. But even small amounts of sugar will bring that back again. So strong yin, the tendency would be yin. But sometimes the tip of the nose doesn't really look swollen. It looks hard. It looks like it almost shines. It has like a hard, let's say it might be a little bit enlarged compared to the rest of the nose, but it doesn't have that real swollen look. It's tighter. And this is more signs of yang problems. It can be like heavy fats, because these tend to go deep into the body, heavy fats, that they will be distributed around the heart. Now, when heart surgeons do bypass surgery, which is a very drastic medical treatment, bypass surgery, and practically everyone can avoid bypass surgery if he just puts his mind to it. When doctors open up the heart and look at it, they see something they call the marble heart. And a marble heart is when they open it, they don't see a reddish brown thing like you'd see in an anatomy book. They see something that's got color of marble. It's like a whitish, yellowish mass around the heart. And this is saturated fat, hardened, cholesterol. It is a yang force which is constantly burdening the heart. The heart is pumping, but it's got this layer of thick stuff around it. So some people have both. They'll have the hardening, and also the heart energy gets loose in the strong yin. In any case, the nose gives us a good insight in this. Now, some people may have noticed that alcohol-dependent people, alcoholics, or people who just are very heavy into alcohol use, that they tend to get a swollen nose, which can take the color of red or blue, bluish red. These are signs of extreme yin, extreme stagnation, serious disturbances. Then, the middle area of the nose is related to the stomach. So if we see swollen or discoloration of just the middle part of the nose, but the tip looks fairly normal, this will give us some insight into the stomach, and then we can look at other diagnosis methods, for instance, the upper lip, which relates to the stomach. We have gone through that before. The upper lip and this together, you would there already have two signs showing you a tendency to stomach problems. And the organ that is related to the stomach through acupuncture is the pancreas, is the upper bridge area of the nose. So sometimes we'll see that the nose has an even feature, but just in the upper part here, we can see something different. What we see is, number one, a swollenness. It's more swollen up here than the rest of the nose. Or we see reddish color. Just reddish here, but we don't see it in the rest of the nose. Or we see brownish spots over the nose. This is often a sign of pancreatic imbalance, and it can be a sign of hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia means low blood sugar. It is a big problem in our society today. People who can't make it through the afternoon without eating chocolate or sugar are hypoglycemic. People who need coffee to finish off the afternoons, they can finish their work shift, probably are hypoglycemic. The afternoon is the hypoglycemic time. And you can always see it. If I do a seminar going a whole day, you can see that in the morning, people are fresh. The morning energy is like a rising energy. And that's usually people's optimal time. And then the afternoon, about 2, 3 o'clock, we see this crisis setting in. People that, you know, these people who were interested earlier are now nodding out. Because for everybody, the afternoon is a critical time. But some people are so far out of balance that they really feel it. And when they feel it, it's usually in the form of sleepiness, lack of energy, feeling of real tiredness, or it can also be a strong attraction to sweets in the afternoon, strong need for sweet things in the afternoon. If you fit this description, you're probably hypoglycemic. Your pancreas is probably stressed, and it's time to do something about it. So food is what decides whether your blood sugar goes up or down, or whether it stays within certain limits. Doctors who deal with diabetics know that the food they eat will immediately affect their blood sugar. And if you are hypoglycemic, you need to change your food patterns because you're doing something wrong. And there are many different things. It can be. But the most important thing is that you be careful of eating fast sugars. That's sugar, honey, especially. And try to eat more sweet vegetables. Sweet vegetables are a balanced form of sugar. Sweet vegetables are things like carrots and pumpkin and parsnips. This is a big problem. I would estimate that over half of the general population suffers more or less from hypoglycemia. There is a whole industry built up on hypoglycemia. It's the ones that make the chocolate bars. I recently was reading an interview with a man who is one of the top managers in the chocolate industry. Very interesting. They asked him how they developed the chocolate bar, like these little snack bars. He said, well, it was very easy. They took 200 test persons in a room and they gave them chocolate to eat, and they were supposed to describe their feelings as they ate the chocolate. And they found that if people ate a whole bar of chocolate, they had feelings of nausea, of light repulsion. And then they got the idea that chocolate wasn't so good for them. How could they get an idea like that? And then he said they would then rather abstain from chocolate. So with these 200 test persons, they found out what is the level of chocolate someone can eat without feeling a repulsion from chocolate. And they found out the exact amount, and that is what you have in a chocolate bar. It is the amount you can eat it. You will not have a bad conscience about having done something bad to your body because you keep under the threshold of nausea. So, when we become aware of these connections, then we understand that we don't even want to have these things occasionally. But when we find ourselves being constantly attracted to them, we know that we have low blood sugar problems. So we have to deal with it on an immediate level and on a long-term level. But the long-term level is reestablishing harmony in our pancreatic function, which is a very basic energy. In Chinese medicine, the pancreas is in what's called earth energy or soil energy. And soil or earth energy is the center of the acupuncture chart. The earth energy is so important for the functioning of the body. And that is why it's very important to get away from sugar, because you can't get balance in your earth or soil energy if you take these strong sweeteners. You will be constantly stimulating your pancreas to produce abnormal amounts of insulin, and in the long run, you create a lot of blood sugar problems. It's like a roller coaster ride, up and down. So, one thing I notice very often when I see people with this is their eyes look tired. They may, there's no really reason to be tired. They've been up, for 6-7 hours. They're just working at their jobs, what they usually do. But you look at them and they look exhausted. When you look closely in their eyes, their eyes don't have a vibrant quality. That's very typical for hypoglycemia. There are ways to get around the sweets. You can also drink coffee, of course, because the coffee will give an artificial stimulation to your hormones so that you can bridge over that tiredness. But what you're doing when you take coffee to do that is you're actually living on your life substance. You're trading in some of your basic life substance so that you can function at the moment. So it's better not to rely on these strong stimulants, but rather get that deeper balance. So when you do the practice session of looking at each other, what you find, then be especially aware of this one, because this is one you'll find very often in people. Then we have the area under the eyes, which corresponds to the kidneys. Some people will have a smooth area here. That's, in general, a sign of kidney strength. But some people will have kidney weaknesses that don't really show here. So you may want to use other methods, like, is the hand wet? Is the Achilles tendon swollen? But often you'll see these bags developing as a sign of kidney weakness. Kidneys get weakened by excess protein, excess salt. They get damaged by the phosphates, which are in cheese, sausage, soft drinks, and in several food additives. And they get damaged by too much sweet. So, if the person is taking excess salt, which can be a problem when people are changing over to macrobiotic food, because up till now, they have been eating a lot of spices, a lot of seasonings that are giving the food a strong taste. Now they switch over to food which is very mild in taste, but several of the condiments used in macrobiotic food preparation are salty. So there can be a tendency to overuse salt in different condiments. For example, soy sauce, or the salt plum, which the Japanese called umeboshi. And if we take too much of that, we can get, instead of the bags, you may just see dark coloring, like a raccoon kind of thing, coming in, dark areas under the eyes. But what we often see is from excess yin, excess liquid, and the wrong kind of liquid, we see bags forming that can be this, or they can be this kind. Both are signs of yin kidneys, but especially the big ones are excessive yin and need some good treatment. You'll find among people who eat macrobiotic food that these bags reduce in size. They become less and less. Now, for those of you who are sitting up in the more front rows, if you look at my face in the area under the eyes, I don't know how well you can see it from your distance, but can you see a difference between my right and left side? After what I've just said, which one of my kidneys would you say is weaker? Left kidney, very good. Everybody gets an A. That's right. My left kidney is somewhat weaker. If you saw pictures of me 20 years ago, you would see not only something you need to look a little closer to see, you would see real kidney bags. Because I had abused my kidneys, and my left kidney was especially showing it. So, as I became macrobiotic, I saw that these bags became less and less. But even today, I'm still carrying the result of 25 years of wrong eating. It takes a long time to restore the balance. We don't have to restore it totally, of course. What we want to do is restore balance so we live healthy. And I think I'm doing fine in that way. But in any case, when you look at yourselves, you can see left and right side, which side shows more burden, which side needs more attention. Now, when we look at my face and see that the left side has got slightly more of a bag than the right side, we'd say the left kidney. And if we remember something from a previous session, that the left side of the body is what's called heaven's fourth side, or the yang energy. The right side of the body is earth's force, or the more yin side. We'd say that my left kidney, which is governed by heaven's force, needs especially good yang quality. I need to support that yang flow, but I have disturbed it by too much strong yin in earlier years. So I would want to take things like root vegetables, mineral-rich foods like seaweeds, and especially the grain buckwheat. Buckwheat is very good for yin condition in the kidneys. I understand that Montana farmers are getting more and more into buckwheat because on the world market there's a big demand for it. So you can have it right at your door in Montana. And the most important thing for kidneys is to don't let them get cold. If you see bags that have formed under the eyes, keep your kidneys warm. Even on warm days, be careful not to get like sweating within having a cool breeze. Take the kidney area. This is what in acupuncture they call a vicious energy, which can enter the body and create weakness, is this cooling. The kidneys should be warm. They're an organ that needs warmth. So what people in the East traditionally have done for kidney weakness and for other things is to wear something the Japanese called haramaki, which is a kidney warmer. It's a piece of cloth you just wear around the middle that keeps the kidneys warm. You can wear it in the cold time of the year or even in the warm time of the year if you have problems. But kidney chi, which is the Chinese word for life energy, life force, the kidney chi needs warmth. Also, we shouldn't let our feet get too cold. The feet are related to the kidneys. So one diagnosis method for kidneys is to feel the Achilles tendons. The acupuncture point that begins the kidney meridian is on the bottom of the foot. And it goes up the side of the foot and in the Achilles area. And if we let our feet get too cold, this will also create negative energy in our kidneys. So if we want to wrap it up in a nutshell, what we would say about this is that to be healthy, we keep our head cool and our feet warm. That's the way to do it. With a cool head, this stimulates the nervous system. I'm sure you all have had the experience of being in an overly heated room See what that does to your attention span? Makes you very groggy and tired. And as soon as it gets cool, immediately concentration comes back. So by keeping our heads cool, not too hot, we tone the nervous system, and by keeping our feet warm, we support kidney function. So sea vegetables or seaweeds are very beneficial. They're high in minerals. One thing that's important to consider with the kidneys is that they are the central point for mineral balance in the body. Your minerals are very much determined by kidney function, your mineral balance. So by eating seaweeds, in small portions of course, but eating them regularly, we can contribute to stronger kidneys. They need those minerals. They need minerals for their functions and to keep the body in general in harmony. So if we walk on the street today, we'll see that very many people are suffering from weak kidneys without knowing it. When we talk about posture later on, we'll come back to this kind of thing can also show kidneys. People that will stand this way. It's a kind of like palm healing. They can feel that their kidneys are weak, and when they do this, oh, it feels so good. And this kind of body posture speaks for kidney weakness. So, by eating macrobiotic food, we automatically do a lot for the kidneys. We don't have to do a lot of special things, but if we have acute kidney problems, we may want to do more special things. Then we have the area above the eyes, between the eyebrows and the eyelids. This area is very much related to our lymph system, and we can say spleen in general. Now, spleen is very closely connected to pancreas in Oriental medicine. In fact, they share one meridian, one energy channel. They're so close. But the spleen will show the signs of yin excess more easily. You'll see it develop as a swollen condition between the eyebrows and the eyelids. And you can see it as a puffiness. The eyes look very puffy. You can look at photos. If you're a little bit older, look at photos of yourself when you were younger. If you're young, look at photos of your parents and see how did they look when they were young, and look especially at this area and see what happens as they get older. You see, many people, they get puffier and puffier and puffier here, showing that their spleen energy is getting more and more yin. Now, an interesting thing with cancer patients is that you will find that this area can become extremely expanded, very loose. And that people who are suffering from cancer will often get such a drooping that it starts hanging over the eyes themselves. And it's showing that the spleen condition is becoming extremely yin. Not only yin, but very, very yin. Now, when we deal with Oriental medicine concepts, the more we learn about it, the more it becomes clear to us that the spleen plays a very pivotal role in health. It doesn't have the earth position in acupuncture for nothing. The original acupuncture energy chart showed fire energy, metal, water and wood, or actually a better word is tree. Now, water is the energy of the north, fire is the energy of the south, metal, energy of the west, tree, the energy of the east. But earth, or soil energy, was the energy of the center. And when we see these kind of problems, cancer, problems of the immune system, we can see that earth energy is very much disturbed, and it is the center focal point of our health. And the quickest way to make this energy weak is to eat sugar in all its forms. The scourge of the earth. Because your earth energy will weaken. And it will make your immune system weak. It will contribute to a blocking of your lymph system. Your lymph system is constantly cleaning the body. And when you get this swollenness here, you see that your lymph system is not functioning properly. So the nice thing about this is that some people who maybe have had cancer and have understood that they have to change things, they will make changes in their food habits and their lifestyle, and this will recede and become normal. And this is one of the ways we have of using diagnosis or evaluation of the condition at the moment. We can see this person has had a condition, a bout with a severe illness like cancer, but this contraction here shows that this person is really getting their bodies more yang in the earth phase. They're strengthening their immune system, and they're doing what's necessary to give themselves optimal life quality and life expectancy. And that's what it's all about. So this area is very interesting, and I spend a lot of time looking at this area on people, because sometimes you'll see one side more swollen than the other. You'll see the right side extremely swollen, left side moderately swollen. If the right side is more swollen, it generally gives us an idea of more yang disturbance, although that's a big generalization. On the left side, more yin. So a spleen can also be seen in this area along the temples or the sides between the eyes and the hair. If this area gets very puffy, or if it gets a color like a grayish color, grayish-green color, can be a sign, or yellowish, can be a sign that the spleen energy is disturbed. Now, sometimes you'll see general swollenness all the way around the eyes, or the discoloration that we talked about before with the kidneys may show all around the eyes. So you'll see someone not only here is discolored, but also above the eye, or the eyes are not just here puffy, but it's a general puffiness all around. This tends to show not only then the spleen, but also especially kidneys are involved when you see puffiness around the whole eye. Now, when we have balance, the eyes, the iris will be centered in the middle of the eye, or pretty close to center. It can be just like touching like this, but it's something like this. But some people will have an eye that looks like this. This is where the eye is actually moving up in the socket. So when you look at them, they're looking straight ahead, but they look like they're looking up. So if you look at people, you will see that some people around you have eyes that are leaning upward. And this is a sign of extreme yin. The Japanese call this condition sanpaku. The san means three. You've got three white areas instead of just two. And sanpaku is a sign that especially the nervous system is very yin, coming strongly out of balance. People who are yin sanpaku should be very careful with all extreme yin foods. A man named Osawa introduced macrobiotics to the West many years ago, first in France and then other countries. He wrote books in a rather quick, radical way and has unfortunately caused a lot of confusion about what is real macrobiotics. But one of his books is entitled, You Are All Sanpaku. And looking at when he came to the West and seeing our society, so too much indulgence in these yin yin items, yin foods, and that the tendency in the population in general was that the eyes were going up and causing a certain slowness. It will make you more accident prone if you are yin sanpaku, because you're a little bit slow in your reactions. And this can take away your ability for those quick, clear reactions to fast situations. But this can change. This can change in a relatively short time. As the yin energy decreases, the eye will go back down more this way. Now the opposite is this one. This is called yang sanpaku. This one is yin, it's caused by expansion. This one is yang, it's contraction. In a baby, this is the normal state. Babies always are like this, and then gradually it goes like this, and then in old age, especially in the last phase of life, people may tend to become sanpaku. You may have seen Krishnamurti, was very sanpaku. Towards the end of life, it can be like this, but during life, in the middle of life, it should stay like this. Now, if you've ever, or I'm sure you've all seen it, if you can draw forth now a picture of Charles Manson. Charles Manson, it's like the satanic force in person. And what he did several years ago, committing murder on a pregnant woman, was then given life in prison. But if you look at pictures of him, you'll see that he is yang sanpaku. Yang sanpaku is, in adults, a sign of tendency to violent behavior, to extreme behavior, aggressiveness in general. Or it can sometimes just be too much yang. It doesn't have to always be so dramatic. So you can look at the people. You'll see yin sanpaku much more often than yang sanpaku. But when you just look at the people, take a look at the face, look at the eyes, very quickly you get an impression. So the area between the eyes corresponds to the liver. We talked about that in an earlier session. Especially lines here, one or two of them, shows a tendency to tightness in the liver. If we feel the liver here under, other side, right side. If we feel the liver, it's on the right side, then we should be able to feel a softness, a flexibility. We should be able to get the hand under the rib cage. But in my experience, about 2/3 of all the people in this country and in the industrialized countries of the West, of Western Europe, about 2/3 of the people have what we can call enlarged livers. This means that you don't easily get your hand under the liver, but rather it offers much more resistance. It feels hard. So this is not a good sign. So what's fun is if you see these kind of lines very pronounced, if you can have the opportunity to check the liver, then have the person lie down, on their back, relax. You can even put the knees up so that all of the tension is out of the abdomen. Knees up, and then gradually, very softly push in under the right rib cage. How does the liver feel? You should have softness here. If not, hard, and it's time to do something about the liver, especially fat. Be careful about eating fat. Some people will trade animal quality fat for a lot of vegetable quality fat, or taking a lot of oils. But eating a lot of vegetable oil, vegetable quality oil, is not the answer either. We should be flexible. Our joints should be flexible. We should all be able to do this. We should be able to hold our hands and shake them. But some people are so stiff, they only get this far. And if they're really lucky, they can just touch. But with all this hardness in here, it's understandable why that is. So through these simple checks, we can see how's our condition. How are we doing? As I mentioned before in another session, a yellowish color in the skin can also be a sign of liver disorder beyond the lines here. And moving on into the forehead area. The lower area of the forehead here above the eyebrows corresponds also to our intestinal area. So we'll find that if these lines are very pronounced, if there is swollen, if it's swollen here from the side, so it sticks out like this with these lines, then there is a yin condition in the intestines, especially too much liquid or too much liquid type foods. Now, sometimes you'll see pimples develop. People always get them on the forehead. If it's always in the forehead, this is a sign of intestinal problem, or there's like fat deposits in the intestines which are not properly being disposed of, but is actually sitting there, it's stuck. If it happens a lot. Now, it can actually be a good sign to have these things come out if it's only temporary. One of the most common complaints people have about eating good food is that they can't eat bad food anymore without getting a slam on the head for it. They'll say, before I used to eat pizza, which is a very fatty, oily, chaotic kind of food. I used to eat that every day. It was my favorite food. And now, I'm so good 6 days out of the week. And just 1 day a week, I want to be able to afford a pizza. And yet when I do it, the next day, I've got all these pimples. And it isn't fair. Well, of course, we should be happy for these pimples, because these kind of pimples are showing that the body is immediately throwing off the toxic excess which other people are storing deep inside. I hear many people say, my husband doesn't want to try this, even though I'm excited about it, because he sees that every time I eat sugar or something, if I'm at a party and so I take a piece of cake, that I don't feel good afterwards. And he says, you know, you should be able to eat all these things without any effects, that it's not healthy if you're that way. But actually, we become like very small babies again. We're having this like original purity, you could say. If you give a baby these extreme foods, the babies will react immediately. They can't handle it. In fact, milk products are the most common cause of food allergy among children. And if children are given these foods in excess, they will really show, their bodies will react to it. And we become a little bit like that. Our bodies react. But it shouldn't be something we get concerned about, but rather be happy that our bodies are throwing it off and that it doesn't store as excess. Because people who don't have this kind of understanding of their bodies become insulated from their own body feelings. I have experienced people who have found out they had cancer at the last possible moment, 5 minutes to 12, 2 weeks before they died. I experienced one man who came, he was walking through the forest in Sweden, and suddenly a very interesting bird flew up out of the forest, out of one of the trees, and he pointed to his friend, look at that bird, and his arm broke in 3 places. Because he had bone cancer and didn't know it. And the bone cancer was so far along, he didn't even know it. Now, if you eat good food, and you have that kind of body quality, that is like a body sensitivity, then you're going to know when you're getting out of balance. You're not going to be hearing about these things at the last moment. And if you know your body well, as soon as the imbalances start, you feel it. For example, the best time of the day to be in touch with your body is the first few moments when you wake up in the morning. There is no time of the day when you are more in touch with yourself than then. How do you feel when you first open your eyes in the morning? Do you feel good? You feel bad? If you don't feel good, you should make some changes, because that's the real intimate contact. I don't get sick very often, but now and then I do catch a cold. Then I don't live a very natural life. I spend a lot of time at airports and in airplanes and very busy schedules. It's not a very natural lifestyle, but I enjoy it nonetheless. But sometimes when I'm starting to catch a cold, I know several days in advance, because when I wake up in the morning, my first feeling is not out of the bed, taking life by the horns and getting into the day's activities, but rather I have this feeling, I'd like to lie here a little longer. You know? This is not right. And as soon as I feel that, I know something's wrong, because my normal day starts with feeling good. When I wake up, I feel good. And if I don't feel good, I know I'm getting sick. So I'd better tone down my activities a little bit and take better care of myself, because if I don't, I'm going to catch a cold. That's what my body tells me. In earlier years, I used to enjoy drinking beer. Having lived many years in Germany, that's understandable. German beer is well known throughout the world. But as my sensitivity increased, I found that even drinking one beer, the next morning, I could feel it. I could feel a slowness of getting out of bed. And that first moment when I woke up, my spontaneous feeling would be, I'm poisoned. I'm never going to do that again. Which, you know, later on you forget about it again, because we have short memories. But through repeated reminders, I understood that alcohol definitely slows you down, mentally, spiritually, physically, and my body gave me that. So even though it tasted really good, I found myself drinking less and less of it. And that's what's the great advantage with this kind of lifestyle, is we can be in touch with ourselves. How do we feel when we wake up in the morning? If not good, then let's do something about it. And that we can really take the responsibility for our own health. By using diagnosis, we get some good insights into what's going on. And I've spent a couple of hours here going through the intricacies of the characteristics we look for. But in closing for this session, I would like to say that the absolute best diagnosis we can always use is our intuitive impression. The intuitive impression. I have experienced people who had no overt signs of serious organ trouble, but their behavior gives some very good insights into their condition, because our emotional state is dependent on our biological state. Our nervous system is made up of, or is fed by our blood, which is a process coming from our food. So I'll see behavior which I would call not appropriate for the situation. For instance, anger. You know, have a situation where a woman, it's usually like this, a woman is very excited about macrobiotics. She wants her husband to hear this message. He's been trying to avoid this for as long as possible until she sets up a counseling session with me for him. So you can imagine the atmosphere as he sits down with his, like, yeah, go ahead, tell me, you know. That sometimes there'll be feel a lot of anger and resentment in the man, and he may not have these liver lines on his face, but feeling anger in situations where it's not called for. You know, he could think, well, my wife has gone a little overboard on this, but I'll go and humor her. You know, it'll make her happy, so I'll go and listen to what the man has to say. That would be more what we'd call appropriate behavior. But sitting down and being very tight about it, and so there's a tension in the air, this shows that the man is not in balance. And so intuitively you can feel there's something going on here. Now, as you learn more about emotional diagnosis, you know that this man has a liver problem. You know, it goes far beyond just being a kind of person who's tense. There's a reason for it, because his anger, his tension is totally inappropriate for the situation. So as we learn these different things, let's try to do two things. One is retain all of this information so we can use it to help ourselves, but at the same time not get too lost in detail, but always trying to retain that general feeling. Like, what is this person doing? What kind of energy is going on here? And what does he need to balance his condition more? So that's what we would call the holistic perspective. And with that, we can end this session. Thank you.